Welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and each week on this podcast, I talk to some of the most fascinating people on the planet in all areas of life, from mindset to fitness to spirituality and, of course, business. Look, I believe you deserve success in all the areas of your life, not only business. But before we get into today's show, you may want to join us on our next Work Hard, Play Hard experience. This year, we're going to be going to Mykonos and Marrakesh. In these experiences, I have hand-selected a group of high-performing business people who are seeking more balance, connection, and they want to celebrate their wins as a reward for the hard work that they put in. If you want someone to curate once-in-a-lifetime experiences and force you to play more, rush over to workhardplayhardexperience.com. Fill out an application so we can jump on a discovery call to see if this is a good fit for you. And remember, excuses are over. It's time to live.
You just need to fall. You need to fall flat on your face. You need to feel the pain. Then you need to figure it out yourself. It didn't matter. I had the most capable, amazing dad and mom and grandparents. Nothing would get through my skull. I had to make the mistakes myself. I have learned over the past 10 years that I've turned into the person that I am today because I never back down from a challenge. I don't. But I've learned that by putting myself in situations that are incredibly uncomfortable and things that I am so scared of, that is how I grow into the best person that I can be.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard show. Today on the show is Heidi Powell. Heidi and her husband, Chris Powell, had a television show on ABC called Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition that ran for many years. And today, we dig deep into understanding who Heidi Powell is and what makes her tick. We discuss her early years, what led to the television show, her marriage, the challenges with children and business. And there were a lot of surprises, a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of things I didn't expect. But let me tell you this, I fell in love with this woman. She is freaking awesome. Have you ever been in somebody's presence that when they're there, there's a light beam that bounces off them? Heidi is that lady. She is a spirit, a force, just an absolute love. You will love this episode. Without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Heidi Powell. Heidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are so welcome. You know, I have heard so many amazing things about you through some mutual friends, and I'm super excited to dig into this with you today.
Oh, I'm nervous. Should I be nervous about what you heard?
No, you should not. You should not be nervous. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take you back to the 80s.
Oh.
I'm going to rewind the clock back, growing up in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Wow.
In the 80s.
I'm kind of mind blown right now.
How did growing up in an entrepreneurial family inform how you think about the kind of work that you do today?
Well, in so many different ways. So we can talk about the actual business side of it and basically what's possible for me. And then we can talk about the heart side of it, the heart, mind, and soul side of it. As far as business goes, working with or growing up with a dad that was very entrepreneurial and very driven, I actually never knew that there was another option, that there was an option not to be driven. I wasn't really given a choice. And so lucky for me, I was able to have a lot of wins and accomplishments because he kind of forced me to, in a way. Mm-hmm. So I knew how it felt to be successful. I knew how it felt to set your mind to something and accomplish it. I also did know how it felt to set my mind to something, not accomplish it against his will, because I was, I think every kid, it's like the more your parents push you, the more you kind of pull against what they say to do.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of times where he'd be like, Heidi, this is what you need to do. And I'd be like, no.
What did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a real estate investor. And so he was a home builder, real estate investor. Basically anything you could do to make money, my dad did. And he was really, really good at it. And not only was he good at it, but he was a good person with a good heart and just wanted everybody to succeed. He actually grew up teaching me the marker of success is not when you have $1 million in your account. It's when you can make somebody else $1 million. Like he was so big on helping everybody around him, which I think made him more successful.
All right. I want to talk about what sort of informed your dad, which was your grandfather, which inadvertently informed you. So your grandfather had a big impact on you. You've said that he was one of the most generous and unconditionally loving business owners on earth.
Wow, you did your research.
How did he teach you how to balance the loving side with the sometimes more aggressive business side?
Well, okay, so I should say that my grandpa was like my dad growing up. So I had essentially two dads, my dad and my dad's dad. My dad passed away about 8 or 9 years ago.
I'm sorry.
I should know this. I think it was 9 years ago now. And so my grandpa kind of has always filled in and always been that father figure to us. But he just, like my dad, it was like he was the same. Hey, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your account. If you're not helping somebody else make that money, if you're not helping change somebody's life, if you don't feel good about it, if you can't wake up every single day and say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, if you can't, my grandpa's 80 now and he still works. He'll never, ever, ever, ever retire. Like it's something he just loves what he does. And it's not even what he does as much as it's the people that he gets to work with or he chooses to work with. So it never feels like work to him. It just feels like his passion and it feels like his life. And he said, he knows, hey, I'll never feel old if I keep working. But the second I stop is the second I'm going to start dying.
And do you live by the same sort of philosophy?
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to not be busy. I don't know what it's like to not feel like I'm contributing, to not be a part of something bigger than myself. And I don't know that I want to know what that feels like because the moments that I have where I'm stagnant in my life, where I don't feel like I'm moving forward towards something to make me better, those are the moments where any bit of depression, I'm not a depressed person, but if I were to say, hey, these are moments of depression, it would be where I'm not moving, where I try and sit still. And I do have a hard time breaking free from work because I feel like those thoughts and those emotions of not being enough and not growing start creeping in and start making me feel less valuable.
It's interesting. One of the through lines of this show is that sort of yin and yang of that entrepreneurial drive.
Yeah.
The upside is that you keep conquering.
Yeah.
The downside potentially is if you're sitting still, you could spiral the other way.
Yeah.
And it gets a little dicey having that balance between the two. Your first job was balancing grandma's checkbook.
Oh my gosh.
And for $5.
Did you call and interview people?
I spoke to her.
Did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't. So for $5 an hour, you're balancing grandma's checkbook, right?
Yes.
So the question is,
and I was young. I was like 10.
well, do you think that they were sort of in some ways grooming you or leading you down this entrepreneurial path? And if the answer is yes, how do you apply that same sort of, I want to use the word work ethic, but how do you apply that same sort of philosophy of nurturing your children in the same way that you were nurtured, let's say?
So yes, and so the grandma that I worked for was my mom's mom. So we had my dad, and my mom's mom and my dad's dad were very similar, very driven, very entrepreneurial, both of them. And yes, so they both separately really wanted their grandkids to be everything that they felt like maybe they weren't, and more. And so they were, in fact, they were always on me for, hey, where are you going to school? When are you going? When are you going to graduate? I mean, it was always that from a very, very young age. Sorry, say your question one more time. So the question connected with that was, yes.
Yeah, the question was, I really asked you two questions in one. That's why I tripped you up. The first question, I guess the question I want to know is, how many children do you have?
I have 4 kids. Oh,
you have 4.
I have 4
so
kids.
How did, when you think of the 4 children that you have now, and you think about when you were 10 and you were balancing grandma's checkbook, are you trying to do the same sort of thing with your children now?
Yes, but in a different way, because the world has evolved. So I remember back when I was a kid, but I was also innately into business. Like that's just part of who I am, probably more so than me innately being a trainer. I am more passionate maybe about the business side of it. Now, the emotional side of it, I'm super passionate about all the way across the board, the heart, the soul, all that. But business has always been my thing. I loved, back in the day, there was this thing called Bank It. Did you ever know what Bank It was? You could order, it was like, play checkbooks. And it taught you how to balance checkbooks. It taught you how to count your money and like what a bank statement would look like. And you could write checks. And it was that was all that I ever wanted.
There were Barbies, right?
I was not a Barbie girl. I was not a Barbie. I liked puzzles and Light Bright at a very young age. And I see the world as a big puzzle. I do everything. You tell me a story, I want to know, okay, well, what about that piece? What about that? Okay, wait, there's an inconsistency. These aren't fitting. I see the world as a puzzle. And I love numbers. I love numbers. I loved checkbooks. And so I grew up doing Bank It. And so that doesn't exist now. I'm sure it does. I'm sure you could go somewhere and get it. But the world has evolved and technology is a bigger thing. And I think my eyes are more open than maybe even my mom, dad, and grandparents were back in the day. And I see back then, I remember what seemed like a lot of money or a big success does now seem like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually capable of so much more that I didn't even think I was made for back then. I didn't think anybody was made for it. And oh my gosh, I am. I can actually do whatever I want. So that mentality, like there was a lid back in the day. There's no lid now. No lid. Like I believe I can do anything I want. I want my kids to have that. And so I try to keep their minds thinking that way. Like I also do remember when I started dating back in the day, because I grew up with, my dad was an entrepreneur. He made his own money. He never had a job. He made jobs. He created jobs for people. So that's all that I knew. I worked for him occasionally, but I also didn't like working for him. I wanted to work for somebody else so I could learn and not ride coattails. And I remember dating a guy who was like, oh, I'm going to make a great living. It's going to be great. Basically talking about getting married. And he said, I'm going to have a job as X, I don't remember what it was, and I'll make 6 digits a year. And I remember right away, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't. And it had nothing to do with the money. And I remember him saying he was going to make $300,000 a year. Nothing to do with the money, because that was a lot of money, and everything to do with his mentality. I remember thinking, I cannot be with somebody that has a lid, that thinks that that's all that they can do. And I tried to explain it, and I said, no, you can do that. But you need to know we can do whatever we want. Like there's no lid on how much you can make or what impact you can make it. And it was because he had been raised in an environment where, hey, this is what you graduate to. You're told this is this is success, right? He didn't really understand the entrepreneurial side of it and the happiness that came from it, and the difference between working for somebody and basically being working for yourself. And so, I try to help my kids with that. In fact, last night, and we have a lot of hard lessons learned. My son has a shirt company and he's 15, and I walked him through. I've been guiding him and walking him through, but he's like me and he does his own thing regardless. And I said, Maddox, only get the orders, get the money, order the amount of shirts that people order from you, that they pay for. And he decided to kind of go against what I had said. And last night I got the invoice for all the shirts, and he had ordered $1,000 too much. And he's like, I just wanted a couple extra. I'm like, a couple extra? There's 60 extra shirts here, Maddox. Who's going to pay the will. And it hadn't even clicked for him because money was, so we're learning a lot of lessons. And I sat there with him that's why I went to bed late last night.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you are not leaving. You're not going to bed until you sit here and learn this with me. Like, you need to understand what's happening. Go get your shoes. I'm putting a lien on your shoes until you can pay me back.
I'm gonna boot your shoes. This is interesting. Have you ever heard of the book The Big Leap?
No.
Okay, it's a great book. I think you'd love it. And it's a psychologist who wrote the book, but it's all about an upper limit problem. And so the upper limit problem is, I believe I can make $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year, or I believe I can lose this much weight, or I believe that my marriage is worth this. Everybody bumps up against an upper limit problem. With you, you're so aware of there potentially being an upper limit problem that you don't even engage in it at all. There's no upper limit for you, which is why you're as successful as you are.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I don't know that it's always been that way. It's kind of like I was saying, like, I knew even dating, Kay, with regard to business, there's no limit. But I remember meeting Chris. So my world kind of shifted. Like, I thought I never in a million years ever thought I was meant to be in front of camera. I was going to have any kind of notoriety. Like, I didn't even cross my mind, because in my mind I thought, oh, those people are meant for that. I didn't realize I didn't realize I had the potential to make an impact in this world. So I knew business-wise I could do whatever I wanted to do. I did not know I could make whatever impact that I wanted to make in this world. And I think most people don't realize that. I think they listen to us right now and they're thinking, oh, but that's for them. Like, they're made for that. I'm not. And that was such a huge shift in the last decade of my life. It was like, oh my gosh, no. I can actually make an impact too. I have a voice and I can share it and I can help as many people as I want with it. And that it completely shifted my life.
When you go back to that time in your life where you're working in the gym and you're folding towels.
Oh my gosh, why am I just mind blown right now?
And, then you move on to real estate, right? And you're in the real estate world.
How did you do this? You're going to have to tell me your secret.
What would you tell what do you, if you could whisper in that person's ear folding the towel in the gym, what would you tell her? Chill out. The future is going to be, what would you say to that person?
Well, so that girl folding towels also had a very dark, disturbing, just horrible eating disorder. And she was very depressed. So when I say I'm not a depressed person, I was then, but I didn't know life could be any different. I also had just moved from Arizona, where I remember I was a hostess at a restaurant called Vito's Pizza. And this sounds so crazy. I remember at that time, and I think a lot of it had to do with my eating disorder, I remember thinking, okay, there are waitresses. I'm not waitress material, which was just crazy.
In what way were you not waitress material?
I thought I just wasn't capable enough.
You couldn't take the order?
Like, I just thought I wasn't made for it. It's the craziest thing. Like, I knew, get me out of there, I can figure out how to make money. In a work for somebody environment, I had no idea how to climb a ladder. No idea. None. I remember, even LA, it was a Gold's Gym that I was folding towels at. Same thing. I remember sitting at the front folding towels and seeing the salespeople next to me and thinking, oh, that's for them. I'm a towel folder. And that's me coming from a dad who was an entrepreneur, but at the same time, I knew, pull me out of it, put me in a zone I'm comfortable in, and I could do whatever I wanted. But same philosophy with college. I remember thinking, okay, wait, I don't know if I'm made to do well or get good grades. And I was accepted into ASU right after high school. I graduated with a 4.0. Like, I had a severe case of, I don't even know, just very insecure with who I was. And it was getting back into real estate. And I was a trainer too. So I went from there. I was a trainer for a little while. Didn't love it. I did not like being in a gym and telling people what to do and not seeing any results because I couldn't control what they were doing outside of it. And so it was when I decided to get married for the first time, and I knew I needed to support my family. I went to what I knew I was good at, and I knew I was good at numbers, and got into loan processing. Then I was a loan officer, and I started seeing how good I was and how efficient I could be. And I felt like I could run circles around everybody around me. And okay, if I can do this, what else can I do? Okay, I'm going to go open up my own branch. I can go to auction. I can buy a house. And then I just started buying homes from auction, renovating the homes and selling them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made $120,000. Mom, can you give me money? Let's go get another house together. I pulled my brothers into it. And it was something I started seeing. It just takes a little bit of success for somebody to realize like, oh my gosh, I am capable. So talking to that girl in the folding towels, I don't know that she would have listened. So I'm telling you, and I see that in my 15-year-old son. I'm like, you just need to fall. Like you need to fall flat on your face. Yeah. You need to feel the pain. Then you need to figure it out yourself. It didn't matter. I had the most capable, amazing dad and mom and grandparents. Nothing would get through my skull. I had to make the mistakes myself.
You also have a very, I don't want to use the word unusual. You have a very good self-awareness. Oh, you know yourself. You know your lane. You know where you're good, and you know where you have challenges. And you navigate, it seems to me, into the lane that works best for you.
I do. As I've gotten older, though, one thing I've realized, it's actually the past 10 years. Yes, so 100% I have the awareness. I haven't always. I have learned over the past 10 years that I've turned into the person that I am today because I never back down from a challenge. Mm-hmm. I don't. And I learned.
Does it excite you?
It does now. It didn't. It was actually marrying Chris. And I remember being like, gosh, if I marry this guy, I'm actually going to have to be responsible and actually live up. He set a bar so high and he's so amazing and he works like he's a workaholic. We all are. And for me, it's like when I take on something, I don't quit at all. That is one thing I am. I am a go, 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 go kind of person. And I learned through him that putting myself, he never had to push me. Never. He's never had to pull me. He's never had to push me. I am very self-motivated once I'm there. But I've learned that by putting myself in situations that are incredibly uncomfortable and things that I am so scared of, that is how I grow into the best person that I can be. Like camera, super scary for me. When Chris or somebody wanted to hire me with Chris, I was like terrified out of my mind. But the more I did it, the more I became comfortable with it. And there are still things to this day that do scare me a lot. And if I feel scared, I know I need to do it more.
What's the thing that comes up for you now that when you think about it, you shake in your boots a little bit and you know you need to do it?
So camera is pretty easy for me. Podcasts are pretty easy for me. I would say if there's anything that makes me, and it's crazy because logically you put it on paper and I've done it a lot before and I'm fine at it. You put me on stage and let me flow and I'm great. I can do it all day. I feel my way through things and audiences and I know what they need. You put me on stage and you say, deliver a developed speech. That for me is like, oh my gosh. So
if I put you on the TED Talk stage and you got 18 minutes to compel me, you're going to pass out.
I would do it and I would kill it because I know me.
but it gets your heart
And
down.
Actually, that's what I need to do. So I was just telling my best friend, I'm like, I am the thought of speaking in a structured, organized speaking fashion terrifies me so much. That's what I need to conquer this year.
Yeah.
And I've done it a lot, and most of my speaking though, so I would say 25% is alone and 75% has been with Chris. And now I am this year, I am attacking that. And I actually am taking on more speeches and I'm trying to be the best person I can be because I want to be good at it. Damn it.
I got it. You like fast paced.
I like a little bit of pain.
But you also like methodical.
Yes.
Right? So in your mind, what's the playbook for achieving fast-paced and methodical simultaneously? Because you could argue that they're different.
Yes, you can.
Do you know what I mean?
And I'm one big contradiction.
Right.
I am.
When you think about fast-paced, it's like it's this frenetic, crazy energy. And when you think about methodical, it's maybe somebody more detailed oriented. But when you put the two of them together, they don't seem
but
to
they
fit.
go together.
How do they go together for you?
Fast-paced doesn't mean you sprint just to sprint. It doesn't. To me, fast-paced, it's actually, fast-paced is slow and steady wins the race. Consistency to me is fast-paced. And as long as I never stop moving, that consistency and pace, whatever it is, beats out all the people that are sprinting, stopping, sprinting, stopping, sprinting, stopping. It's like with a diet. Like when you follow a diet, we were just talking about competing before we started. If you follow a diet that's so hard and so restrictive, you're going to get results and you're going to get results fast. But what happens after you get results? You go back to your normal habits and it's not a lifestyle and you don't feel like it's something you can maintain. And most people gain that weight back. Same in business and in life. You have to find something that is sustainable forever. And for me, just continually putting one foot in front of the other. And that is where I really don't stop, because if I do stop, my pace becomes slower. But by moving forward, even slow, you do maintain a really good pace in life. And it's also, I am a big fan of decision making. Like you cannot sit and stew. I always say, the worst decision you can make is no decision at all. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people say that, but that's what I try and live by. So I know, hey, I'm at a crossroad. I need to make a choice. Okay, so I can go this way, I can go this way. If I sit here and weigh out the pros and cons for too long, neither choice is going to be a good choice. But if I make one, even if it's the quote unquote wrong choice, it's actually going to be the right choice because I'm going to learn really quickly it's the wrong choice and I'm going to abort mission and move the other direction. So it's by continually moving and doing my best. But luckily, I do think pretty well on my feet. And in business, I'm pretty intuitive with what I do. I believe that any choice that I make, I can make it the right choice.
I love that. I had seen General Schwarzkopf do a talk once, and they were asking him. There was some military spending thing that they were trying to figure out, and it was going back and forth for years. And they had this one person had this view, the other person had that view. It went on, and he said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, and this is the reason why we're going to do it, and because this way it's going to work." Walks out of everybody walks out of the room, and the person in the room said, "How did you know that was going to work?" He said, "Had no idea it's going to work. We got to make a fucking decision."
You do.
Like this is going on for 3 years. Like, just make one. If we screw up, we'll go the other way.
I love it.
But let's do it. The other thing that came to mind is, this is interesting. They've done research. Like you've got a 15-year-old. You know how 15-year-olds drive, right? They're changing lanes and they think they're going to get fat. They're going to get there faster. But all of the research shows that staying in the lane will get you there at the same time than it would if you were weaving in and out.
Well, it's like standing in line at Disneyland. There's 6 lines you can stand in to get in. You can keep switching back and forth, but just stay in the same damn lane.
Right.
And that's actually something my dad always used to say, stay in your own damn lane. And for a lot of reasons, for comparison reason, but he'd say, just go, just look straight forward, know what your goal is and go. Stop thinking, hey, this way is going to be better. This way is going to be better. It's like, the comparison game in life too, in general. It's like, oh, what they're doing over there is working for their business. Maybe I should adopt that method. Oh, what they're doing over here is, no, just go. Trust, believe, be happy for them that they're finding success. But the more you change directions and say, oh, this diet, oh, this diet, oh, this, you got to stay on path.
I want to touch base on something you mentioned. You were struggling with an eating disorder from your teens well into your 20s.
Yeah.
When you look back on now, do you have a grasp for where that stemmed from and why? And how do you think about it differently?
Yeah, and I have a couple different thoughts on that. In one sense, I believe that it stemmed. I can't blame anybody. You're going to sit in a therapist's office, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's your dad's fault. It's your mom's fault." It's my fault. But I grew up in a very fit family. And so for me...
Mom and dad?
Mom and dad. Yeah, my mom was super little Barbie, muscle Barbie growing up. And my dad was like Mr. T, Mr. Clean. He was like Mr. Clean, bald head, just muscles everywhere.
Yeah.
Tall guy. And so, and they never did anything or told me I wasn't good enough. But I believe, and I was the only girl, 3 brothers, only daughter. And I felt like, I think I was always striving for my dad's approval. And my dad loved my mom and just doted on her. And she was his queen. And he was so proud of her. And I mean, until the day he died, he was hugging her and loving her and kissing her and just, oh, you look so beautiful. You did such a good job. And I felt like in order to get love, and he didn't do this, he didn't say this, but I felt like I needed to be that. And so I was constantly comparing myself to her. And always feeling like it, and naturally I'm a little bigger structure. I'm a couple inches taller. And growing up though, when you have an undeveloped teen brain or 10-year-old to 11, 12, 13 up through my teens, I didn't notice, oh, I'm just a taller person. I thought, oh, I'm fat. I remember being like, oh, I'm bigger than her. I'm fat. And I was always super self-conscious of my body. And I was a twig. Looking back, I'm like, what was I even thinking?
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. And so I ended up blowing out my ACL twice in cheer. And in my mind, I had this idea that if I can't work out, I can't stay skinny. And I was a flyer in cheer. So I was the one that they threw up in the air. And I stopped eating. And my dad noticed me stop eating. And he was like, hey, I'm going to force feed you. Force fed me. And I taught myself how to throw up when nobody was looking, because it was something I was so deathly afraid of not being enough by way of not being my mom. And it was misinformation. So that, to go back to whose fault is it? It's mine, because I just didn't understand enough. I didn't. And I even, when I had met Chris, like, I wasn't binging and purging, and I thought I had my eating disorder under control, but there was a major sense of body dysmorphia still there, and misinformation, not understanding. Yeah, I was a trainer and I knew I could put people on plans, but not understanding what my body was capable of, and how much food your body actually takes to function and to build muscle. And then add to it, I mean, another whole facet, another side is I didn't have very many victories or very many things that I had accomplished that I felt good about. And so for me, realizing my potential and little by little, just like, oh my gosh, I can do this. It helped me love myself. Realizing my body's potential and knowing, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to eat 2,600 calories to actually build the muscle that I need so that my body can effectively burn fat. Now,
which is the opposite of what you were doing.
Complete opposite. Yeah, I had no idea. I was under the school of thought that most people are today. I need to run and I need to eat less and no carbs. And I always had a body I felt like was skinny fat. And it kept me in this eating disorder cycle where actually hiring a coach, when I started competing, getting on stage usually puts people in a downward spiral. For me, it helped pull me out.
It gave you the structure.
It did. And I had to trust somebody. Somebody had to say, Heidi, you need to eat 350 carbs, 120 grams of protein, and 50 grams of fat a day. And I could freak out all I wanted. And he said, if you don't do what I say, I will not work with you. And I did. And I freaked out. And I would check in with him every week. Like, any coach would check in with their client. And he would say, get out of your head. You're going crazy. Follow what I say. You're right on track. And that for me would be like, okay, I need it. So we need that feedback from people in our lives that we trust. I think that's very important.
It's interesting. I had, on that day there at TB12, I had interviewed Tom Brady's trainer.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the question that I asked him exactly, but it was something along the order of, does he follow everything that you tell him?
Yeah.
He said, well, in the beginning, it didn't. He told me that he wanted to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so to do that, I said, I don't want you lifting any weights. We're going to be doing band work and pliability work and stuff like that. And one day I came to the gym and he was lifting weights and I packed my shit up and I left. And he's like, where are you going? I said, I'm done with you. I'm not training anymore. He's like, okay, I'll listen to you. And he said, from that day, it was the only time it's ever happened. So what I love about that story is that your ability to listen to a coach who says like, I know you think you know best,
Yep.
But you don't.
Yep.
Because there's a strategy and there's a formula. And if you follow this, we're going to get you there.
Yep.
So the fact that you did that was great. So, okay, you've been mentioning Chris. And for those listeners that don't know, your husband is Chris Powell. Mm-hmm. And as fate would have it, in 2008, you met that dreamboat hunk of a man.
You are so good.
And you guys were at a self-development seminar.
Yes, we were.
And so, I'm making this picture in my head. You've got an eating disorder. You're a single mom at the time. He's living out of his car. He's got a bunch of debt.
Yeah.
Can you kind of take me back to that moment and maybe describe for me what that time in your life was like? Because there's that... there's that precipice that we come on, right? You're now, you're single, you've got kids, and you got this eating disorder, and you're at a development seminar, and he comes in, and he's like living out of his car. He's got a bunch of debt, but then you meet, and then dynamite happens, right? Then it explodes. Actually. But in that moment, it wasn't dynamite. Yep. It was coming to a head.
The stars aligned, right, and the heavens opened.
There you go.
And they actually, crazy as it sounds,
take me back to that time and walk me through, from your perspective, that place in your life.
Yeah. So I was divorced, newly single, mom of two, like you said. And I was pretty secure in I realized something about myself. I realized a lot about myself. As long as I have somebody there, I'm very secure in who I am. It's
somebody
crazy.
In relationship, you mean?
Whether they are healthy or not, whether they are stable or not. For
just
me,
just a man.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not a healthy thing. So I'll tell you, when I say that, mm-hmm. I recognize about me that's something I need to work on in my life right now, because it is very uncomfortable for me to be alone. Mm. And my past, my first husband, we were going through some things, and he had some struggles, some addiction issues. Mm-hmm. But even with that, though, I had found happiness and stability, not necessarily with him, but in myself. Mm-hmm. Divorce happens, mm-hmm. and it was my choice. Mm-hmm. And as much as I felt like I was better off alone is such a scary thing for me. So I went from relationship to relationship to relationship to, literally, mm-hmm. I was this perfect Mormon girl growing up.
Oh, you were Mormon?
I was.
How the hell did I miss?
How did you miss that? How did you miss that?
My God. The pizza place pissed me off when you said it a minute ago. Did I miss that? Mormon? I'm ready to leave. Wow.
Yeah, I was raised Mormon. And
are you still?
I haven't been maybe since I met Chris.
Can you be a Mormon and be an ex-Mormon, or are you once a Mormon, always a Mormon?
I've never extracted my name from mm-hmm. the records, and I wouldn't be opposed to going back if I felt like church was something that I wanted, or I wanted for my family. There's comfort and there's peace in what you know as a child from your childhood. Mm-hmm. And so I've been to a lot of different churches, but just naturally, because I was raised in that environment, I do feel peace going there. Now, religion is religion is religion. I don't know that, I'm not a believer that one's better than another. I think they're all great. I think it's where you find peace and you find happiness. For me, it's spirituality mm-hmm. is the most important thing. And I don't think you need a church for that. Mm-hmm. But if I wanted a church and if I wanted structure, there is something comforting about that for me, but I haven't gone in a very long time. Mm-hmm. My two older kids do go with their dad. And when they have things that go on, I attend or I go support. But my two younger kids with Chris, they don't.
So we're gonna get back to. I know we got a lot of balls in the air. We're gonna go back to your
Mormon. Okay.
Your ex-husband, is the addiction still there, or is that part done?
Yeah. No, it was still there when we were divorcing. No, he's good now.
Now he's good. Okay. Yeah. But he's a Mormon as well.
He is.
Got it. Yes. Okay. And your children are, I guess, by proxy, Mormons.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now take me back to the self-development time. By the way, which event was that?
It was Landmark Forum.
Landmark. My daughter just did it.
Oh, mm-hmm. I loved it.
Yeah.
There's like everything, mm-hmm. everything and everyone. There's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
You just take the good and you go with it, and you leave the bad.
Hard sell at the end, but it was.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I prep everybody that goes in. I'm like, mm-hmm. they're gonna sell you.
Right.
Stand your ground. This is your chance.
The only thing, if they just pulled that part out of it, it's magic.
I know, but I think a lot of the world, they're sheep. And so most of the people can't say no.
Right.
And so they get people in by almost forcing them. Like it was really uncomfortable many a time. Every time I go, I'm like, no.
I get it, because everybody's reluctant. Okay, so you're at Landmark. You meet Chris there. You guys are broken. However you want to phrase that. You're in different places in your life.
And I did not want a man, so I showed up every day at that self-improvement seminar because I was like, I'm done. I need to figure out how to be alone. And I think I was alone for about a month,
right?
Maybe.
Which is a good stretch for you at the time.
It was a long time. Yeah. And I was in sweats, no makeup. I had a hat. Well, under the sweats, I had on a tank top. And at one of the breaks, Chris and I were the only two people that packed our own food. Everybody else.
And he's like, nice arms.
Oh, well, and he did. He said, his exact words were, I want to know what you did to get those biceps. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I remember seeing him across the room, and I didn't think anything because he just, I don't know, I wasn't in the headspace. I do remember thinking, oh, hell, I think that guy's probably going to hit on me because I could kind of.
You felt it?
Yeah, a little bit. And I guess just, I think I had this stereotype in my head that gym rats all hit on blonde hair, blue-eyed girls. And so.
Like attract like. I got it.
And so, he made the comment about my biceps and I'm like, oh gosh, like turn around. I talked to him a little, because I'm a nice person, so I will never blow anybody off. I talked to him. He's super sweet. His voice is a little shaky. I could tell he was nervous. Then he went and answered some questions up in front of everyone later in class, and his voice was shaky again. So I felt like I was making him a little bit nervous. And he ended up bringing me a gift the next day. And I'm like, oh gosh, this guy is just, I don't know.
Day one, day two?
So day 2 is when he complimented my biceps. Day 3.
You got the gift.
I got the gift.
Okay, what did he give you?
Now this gift was, at the time, I thought it was him trying to win me over. It was really, he wanted me to be aware of his product. It was Stack System. So the Stack System, it was a nutrition system that taught you how to eat by colors and numbers. And it basically was a cooler system that he came up with. And you feel the proteins, carbs, fats up to your body weight. And I mean, he explained the whole thing. He was super passionate about it. And he's like, hey, I saw you brought your own food. I want you to have this. And so I had his Stack System, and we exchanged email addresses, not phone, not numbers for some reason. And there was a day 3 of the seminar 2 days later. It was like a Tuesday night. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. Chris, I could tell he wasn't getting much out of the seminar. Because Chris, that's just how, and I was like, oh, integrity. You do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. If I say I'm going to be there Tuesday night at 6 p.m., I'm going to be there Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Well, so I was we emailed back and forth a couple times. Hey, thanks for this, whatever. Are you going to be there Tuesday? And he had said, oh, I'm not quite sure. And I responded and said, yes, you will, because you have integrity.
Wow.
And he showed up Tuesday. He was not going to go. He was going to bail because his life was busy and he had, this product to bring to the masses and he was going to save the world. And he had this tattoo down his side that said, I'm going to save it was Roman numerals 1 through 1,000,000. And in his mind, that seminar was getting in his way. So that's where he and I connected, was that night. I gave him a ride to his car after the seminar. We sat in the car and we talked. And I remember him like a scared little boy was like up against the side of my car, like, I'm not interested in a relationship. And I said, neither am I. I'm a single mom of 2. You are not what I want in somebody that way. But we just got to talking, and you can't be in Chris's presence without realizing right away he is different. And I mean that in every sense of the word and in such a good way. He is unique. Like there are things about him where you're like, gosh, he doesn't know how to settle down. But I also think, and I was telling him this the other day, balance-wise for him is different than it is for most people. I think for him, he's on this earth to make a big impact, to make a difference, and he will not stop until he does, until the impact is the size that he wants it to be. And I don't think he'll ever reach it. But I loved what he was doing and what he was about and just his goodness and his positivity. And I knew he right away, he's like, I'm a few $100,000 in debt. I kind of went through all my baggage and I'm like, I can help you. I actually did home loans I do home loans still. I've cleaned up a gazillion people's credit scores. Let me come help you. I'll come help you pull you out of debt. I didn't say it like that, but let me help you with hadn't filed taxes in 4 years. He didn't know how to balance a checkbook. He didn't know any of the stuff that I knew really well. So I was self-employed. So I showed up at his house every other day and I helped him clean up his life. So
was there any romantic looking back now, not at that time, because at that time you were clear about your intentions and what you wanted.
Yes.
But looking back now, was there a connection, a flirtation, a budding romance? Because when we were talking earlier before the show started, my wife was my trainer, right?
Yeah.
And
I love that.
She was getting married.
Yeah.
And we were just friends, but we were at the gym and we were just, she was training me and we were laughing. And I definitely felt a connection, but there was nothing romantically going on. I mean, she was getting married. Yeah. And a month after the marriage didn't work, a month later, I started to put together in my mind, oh my God,
she's right there.
Like she's right there and we're connected.
Yeah.
Was there anything like that for you?
There was definitely connection. So as far as friendship goes, we were best friends right off the bat. And for me, that's how love develops. I'm a believer that you don't fall into love, you grow into love. And I think the people that I've fallen in love with, it doesn't last. It's very temporary. But the people who I've grown into love with are the people that are around for my entire life. And for Chris, it was that way. We were immediately best friends. We knew we wanted to be best friends. We actually would say, again, really no romance. He's a really good looking guy. And he would say at the time, he thought I was a really good looking girl, but we actually were not physically attracted to each other. I know that sounds weird. It wasn't anything where we felt like, oh my gosh, we can't. Where there are people where it's like magnetic. You're like, oh, I can't stay away from this person. We were attracted to each other's souls and energy, big time.
Yeah.
And he made me want to be a better person, and I made him want to be a better person. And so we couldn't not be around each other for that. And we would say, hey, it sounds so cheesy, but we would laugh and say, I think we're energy partners. Like, I think whatever happens with our bodies after this life, like you and I, our energy coexisted together before. Like we were meant to be here right now doing this, and I don't know why.
Yeah. You gave me chills. That's when you gave me. Yeah. They say I did an interview with a psychic once. She said when you get chills, it's God sending a confirmation that that's true.
Oh, and I have chills, and I believe that. And we actually never wanted to get married, and I actually, in a weird way, proposed to him. Not really, but he wanted a baby. He wanted his blood to carry on.
You already had two.
I already had two.
Yeah.
And I had said, well, if you want me to have your baby, you have to marry me because I can't, with my kids and the Mormon upbringing and my dad, who was very strong and firm, like I could not get married. So literally 5 days later, we were heading to Portland to go see his mom and dad. And we're like, no, let's just do it in Portland.
And get married.
Yeah. So we just quickly got married. My mom and dad they weren't even going to come up because they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, do whatever. They were super supportive.
Is he Mormon?
My Chris? No,
he's not. And how does that work, having one not and one?
If I was a devout Mormon, it would be a problem.
Okay.
But because he opened my eyes to, and I actually had also, when I was dating him in the beginning, not dating or hanging out with him, I had done the missionary discussions because I was like, gosh, I'm Mormon and I don't even know a damn thing about this religion. So I did have missionaries come over and teach me. I was searching for answers myself. And what I landed on, I kind of went with Chris's school of thought, which is, hey, religion there's not one right and there's not one wrong. They're all great. They all have things that, I can pull from Buddhism. I can pull from all these things, like what's so beautiful about that particular religion. And what it really boils down to, the root of it is finding connection with God or with, a higher power and yourself really, and finding peace. And so for us, it has we have not had one argument about religion, which is very rare.
For sure. Especially in a religion like Mormonism.
Yeah. But I loved his that was part of what I loved about him from the beginning was I loved his perspective. He was good at what I was not good at. And I was good at what he was not good at. And there was so much respect from the beginning for that. And we knew, okay, we're in each other's lives for a reason. But the marriage was a byproduct of us connecting and working together.
Along those same lines, you guys were both super interested in fitness, and he was a bit more calories in, calories out.
Gosh, you're so good.
And you were a bit more on the emotional side of things, right? What did you learn from him, and what did he learn from you to create that 1-2 punch that you guys are so famous for?
Well, I naturally, when you hear somebody say something over and over and over and over, you become an expert. You figure it out. So I did learn a lot, and I'm a smart person. I got straight A's and I didn't really have to study, but I just didn't have interest in the physiological, like the sciencey side of it. I had interest in, right now, I have interest right now in connecting with you and talking to you.
Yep.
Where Chris, if he were talking to you, he'd be like, okay, let's talk about science. He's very passionate about the science side of things. And so I learned the jargon. I know how to build a meal plan. I know what calories do. I know about protein, carbs. So I know how the body works. And physiologically, I can put that together. And by consequently, for my strengths, which is connecting with people, he has learned a lot about, I am a very non-judgmental person, and I grew up in my dad was an addict, and, I had my eating disorder, and we learned a lot from our rehabilitation processes that we brought into transformation with Chris, and he's learned a ton about that, because that's something he didn't really understand. He didn't understand the emotional side of it. So he has definitely grown those skills, and I've definitely grown the skills that he has. But I am a believer, and I can't speak for Chris on this, but I am a believer that while I love those skills, and I'm glad that I understand the body and how it works, and I need to, I love the partnership that he and I have created so that I can do what I'm best at, and he can do what he's best at, and we can thrive in it and find passion in it. Because I think no man is an island. You can't do what you want to do alone. You need a team. So why not find the people that are passionate about and good at the things that you're not?
For sure. So now the television show.
Yes.
ABC comes along.
Yes.
There's a little tiny show called Extreme Makeover.
Teeny.
Weight Loss Edition.
Yeah.
And Heidi Powell, Chris Powell are the stars. What were the steps that ultimately led to
that?
To getting that show, yeah.
So before I had met Chris, he had worked with a guy, helped him lose 400 pounds over the course of 2 years. David Smith was his name.
Yeah.
And Chris wasn't really, I didn't know who he was. He wasn't well known. He kind of was this guy just trying to make a difference. And so when I met him and I was able to kind of free him from those things, the finances and all that, it allowed him to focus on training. So he was building a website. I was helping because I was fit. We loved fitness together. And I was he would, have me do news segments with him, whatever. He ended up so a production company reached out to him about doing a show, a TLC documentary called 650 Pound Virgin. And so that was his very first, and it wasn't even about Chris. It was about David, the guy he had helped, who lived with Chris at the time. And they did a documentary. It was a hit. They came back for a second. And I was just background, helping with contract. Let me do this. I wasn't even much in the fitness space with him at this time. The producer, Chris had done a couple other reality shows back in the day. We won't even go into that right now. He'd probably kill me if we did.
We don't have to go into too deep on that. But so what I'm hearing is that you were quite comfortable behind the scenes.
Very. I was only comfortable behind the scenes.
But he was very interested, and this is not an ego thing, because I get what he's saying, or I get what I think he was after. His mission was so big that he was willing to use whatever platform he could to get in front of a camera.
And when you meet him, his charisma and his dynamic nature on camera, he is a performer. Like and one of my kids our kids, Cash is the same way. Chris is made to be in front of people. He's made to perform. He's made, he has such a gift for it. It would be, and it's a good thing he has a good heart and a great mind, because he can take that and he can impact people on a massive level that way. So he knew he wanted a TV show, and he said, I'm going to be the Ty Pennington of weight loss. And sure enough, this producer reaches out that he knew from the past and said, wow, I see you on, 20, whatever. I don't know what show, the Today Show promoting 650 pound version. I'm so happy for you. Congrats. What are you up to? And Chris emailed back and said, we're doing transformations here in Arizona. And I was helping here and there. Do you want to shoot it? And
this was a production company for the 600 pound version.
This is a different production company that Chris had worked with in the past on his like little cameos in a reality show.
Okay.
Do you want to shoot it? And she said, oh my gosh, let me talk to my boss. And we ended up, she said, hey, JD Roth, who's here locally, he had a company called 3 Ball back in the day. JD wants to meet with you. Come on out to LA. And so Chris and I was just I'm like, oh my God, I was his protector. So I'm like, I'll come with you as your assistant. And so we drove out to LA. We met with them at the offices right here. And then, Chris threw out his vision and said what he wanted to do and drove back home, drove out again a month later and kind of laid it out, had phone calls. And I was just like, hey, Chris, let's keep this in order. Let's make sure they don't take advantage.
Right.
And he ended up getting a call and it was like 3 months of nothing. Ended up getting a call from JD saying, hey, we sold your show. It was a bidding battle between A&E and ABC and ABC One, and you're the trainer. And it was just, they basically showed footage of Chris, working with David on the documentary. And so Chris, less than a month later, flew out, and all of a sudden he went from doing one transformation, David Smith, to season 1 was 8 people at once. And these people, so when you work with someone that has a couple hundred pounds to lose, more often than not, there's a lot of emotional baggage, emotional trauma that's brought them to where they are. So that emotional side of it wasn't really Chris's specialty. With David, he built a friendship with him. So David would do whatever Chris wanted him to because David was trying to win Chris's approval. Now throw 8 people together. And Chris, it was just, he was a head case. Every week, I don't know what to do. And so I was his life coach from the time I met Chris. And so I coach him through it. I don't know what to do with this person. They're going to kick this person off. And so soon enough, I was like, send him to Arizona. Send him to Arizona. I'll take care of it. Because I knew addiction. I knew it from my dad. I knew it from myself. I had an eating disorder. They had an eating disorder. Yeah, my ex-husband and my bulimia and anorexia. I was so ashamed of it. I never even told Chris I had an eating disorder ever until the show. Because I had to open up to these people so they would understand that I am you. I just knew how to hide it. My skin didn't show that I was binging. Yours is showing. And so that is how it was behind the scenes. I would go everywhere because he couldn't handle, it was season 1 was 8 people. 6 months later, so we're only halfway through season 1, season 2 gets picked up. So we have 8 more people. Then season 3 gets picked up and they double the number of people. So we're literally juggling 16 to 20 people at a time. It required the both of us. Yeah. And so we opened up an Arizona house and they would ship all the problem children to me in Arizona. And I would run it with my team and I became a trainer again. And I was a trainer by trade, but I was more, I didn't want anyone to get kicked off the show. I wanted every single person. I'm a saver. I'm a fixer. I wanted to fix Wally in season 1. I wanted to fix Christy in season 2. I wanted all these people. I wanted Nyla in season 2. All the ones that were hard slept on my kids' beds until we opened up a house. And I loved it. I loved feeling like I was making a difference. I loved being a part of it. I loved that my kids would come to the track with me every single morning and we'd go running with these people. I love seeing my kid, I'll cry, but they would run through the finish line at a 5K with them. And just my kids to this day only know helping people in need. And I love it. So that's the producer saw, Matt Osmus was our showrunner. And he's like, wow, I love what's really happening. Let me try and let me bring this up to ABC. This is a family thing. It's not just one person. It's bigger than one trainer. And so they kind of started testing and bringing me on. And it wasn't until season 4 when I was officially a co-host in the opening credits. And season 5 was the same. And which was terrifying for me because I'm like, camera. But I used to tell Chris, hey, as long as they don't make me recite lines and they can just follow me around. If I can just be in my groove, I'm good. If I have to act, I'm just not a performer like Chris is. I just don't like it. I feel awkward. You can tell I'm faking it. Like I'm not.
And they were cool with that.
Yeah. I mean, luckily it was a reality TV show. So they, and there were times where I'd have to do interviews and like, hey, Heidi, tell me about this. And I would just suck it up for a while. I was not good.
Right. So that started, what was the first year of the show?
2000. Okay. So let's see. Cash was born in 2011. So it aired in 2011. Season 1 did.
Yeah.
And we started shooting in 2010. 2010, we started shooting. 2011 is when it aired.
Yeah.
And then it was every year after that.
For how
11,
long?
12, 13, 14, 15. Summer 2015 was the last season that aired.
And why did it stop in 2015?
If you know how network television works, it's a lot of it has to do with who's in charge at the network. I don't think it was that it was a bad show. It really carried itself. They didn't have to put a ton of marketing dollars behind it. It was a really feel-good show that was easily packaged up, and it's been sold to 148 countries. Yeah, it's worldwide, which is great. And you can stream one episode on Hulu, or, it was on TLC OWN and Discovery for a while, and you get a feel right away in that 2-hour episode. You're whole and complete. You just saw someone's story. So it's not like you have to watch a whole season to get goodness out of it. It just comes down to the people in charge. And we had kind of made it through a few different exec changes at ABC. And then, another exec came in and one went out. And naturally, their job is to make the network better. It's to bring in more money and to make sure they have the programming that people will watch. And it's like we talked about decision making. One of their decisions was, hey, let's try this. Right or wrong, they needed to plug something in, push us out, see if something new would get more ratings. It didn't. I think the next show only went a couple episodes and it got canned. But that's just the way that it is. And while it was really hard for Chris, for both of us, I felt like I did so much heavy lifting behind camera and then on camera seasons 4 and 5. I welcomed the break. I was like, okay, this is meant to be. This is meant to be. And Chris, keep in mind, you've wanted to do this. You have all these businesses, all these people you want to help. You can't do it when we're filming a show. There's too much going on. This is a blessing. Let's take the silver lining and let's run with it. And so we finally were able to, it gave us the time, and we had the right resources in our life, the right people that allowed us to build the app platform, Transform with Chris and Heidi, that we can help thousands of people at one time. Okay,
we're going to link to that in the show notes. I'll tell you when we turn the record button off, but have some friends here in town who had a reality show as well.
Yeah.